Thank you for joining us on This Is Exclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long day. Started at 1 a.m. after we accessed the report on the Air India crash. The report is out, and on this show last night, we told you that the report would be out very soon. We brought you the details of how the report was being prepared. Little did we know that the report will be out in just about 5 hours after we broadcast the details last evening. So we're getting you more explosive details of this 15-page report. It's the first report of the Air India 171 crash in Ahmedabad. This report tells you what happened. It tells you what happened on board, but it doesn't tell you why it happened. What happened is known, why it happened is not known, but what we do have today are very critical clues to what downed the AI 171. Here are the headlines this evening. One month after the AI 171 crash, AAIB has released a preliminary report mentioning no action against Air India or Boeing. Full focus on the critical fuel control switch, which report reveals went from run to cut off post takeoff. It's a mystery that nobody knows about why it happened. Preliminary investigation reveals both engines were shut off mid-air. Both engines failed. Pilot heard saying in the black box, "I didn't cut off." One asks the other, "Did you cut off? Why did you cut off?" The other says, "I didn't cut off." Question tonight, who cut off the fuel to the engines? Probe finds no technical fault. Weather was clear. Both pilots were experienced and fit to fly. Between them, 19 hours of experience. So what really brought that plane down? And on top of this is exclusive at 7 p.m. Before we get you the details of this report, I have some breaking news coming in from Pakistan. The chairman of the Prime Minister's Youth Program in Pakistan, Rana Mashood Ahmad Khan, has said that the national men's hockey team in Pakistan will only be permitted to travel to India for the Asia Cup, subject to satisfactory security arrangements. Pakistan Hockey Federation saying that they want security guarantees from India. Why the hell should India give Pakistan, a terror nation, security guarantees? Rakshita is joining me on this. The country that sent terrorists into India and has been doing that for many, many decades now. Recently sent terrorists to Pahalgam, killed 26 Indians. Now wants security guarantees. This is the first, Rakshita.
Well, Pakistan needs its excuses to just save its face. For time and again, we've seen it knows how it's going to be humiliated. It has been humiliated during the recently concluded Champions Trophy as well. We saw what happened. India had its way, and India did not go to. India did not step into Pakistani soil. Now, this, of course, is a matter when India is hosting an event, and Pakistan very well knows what's going in India. There have been a lot of opposition. There have been a lot of protests against what is being called welcome to terrorists, and that is something that India will not take down, will not be taking, will not be accepting. And now Pakistan, of course, it is laughable what Pakistan is saying. Remember, this is the same Pakistan where years ago there was a terror attack in terror attack on the Sri Lankan cricket team back in 2009, and Pakistan should remember for more than a decade it was isolated. There was no cricket on Pakistani soil, so it should be the last country to actually speak about security. And forget the security of players. It cannot even secure its own forces. A case in point is Operation Bomb that has just now been concluded. Balochistan army, the Balochi army have in fact killed more than 50 Pakistani soldiers, and more there are n number of their intelligence officials. At least 70 attacks in 4 days have been recorded in Pakistan. This has just concluded, and in total there are 84 attacks in Pakistan that have happened in Operation Bomb. Pakistan is losing its own ground. Pakistan cannot secure its own people. We are seeing what's happening in Quetta and across several regions in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. People are not safe in Pakistan. Their own citizens, the civilians, are not safe in Pakistan. And they are talking about their own team coming to India and being safe and secure. They very well know that India is not going to accept them. India does not want them, and India will not take their answers. So they are just trying to prep. They are just trying to send out these statements that we want this, we want that. Otherwise, we won't come. Well, Pakistan never had a choice. They had, in fact, made similar statements in the World Cup, the ODI World Cup that was held in the country. I think 2 years ago, that was held in the country, and Pakistan had to come. Their ministers were saying similar kind of things just to show that, we do not want to come. Everybody knows that what a laughing stock Pakistan is. Their army is a laughing stock. We've seen what their ministers say. They expose their own people, and now they will be exposed themselves also. This is also another way just to stay away from further humiliation. Niranjan.
Yeah, I think they're building a case essentially for pulling out, and they should. They shouldn't have been given that choice by India. Thank you for joining us, Rakshita, with that input. Pakistan hockey team asking for security guarantees to come to India, but no thank you. They're not welcome. Let's move on now. In a confidential note, and it's part of the investigation, we have been getting you details of the 15-page report. It appears that in a confidential note that was given by GE, outside of this report, we're also picking up, the report essentially talks about fuel control cutoff from a run position, and we've also accessed a 2020 GE confidential note which asked for upgrades. It spoke about a critical component replacement on the aircraft's fuel control systems, and the GE bulletin from 2020, it's a notice that was sent. It was marked as confidential, originally issued in 2020, updated in 2021, called for replacement of the MN4 microprocessor on the main channel boards of the electronic engine control units due to a risk of LOTC, which is a loss of thrust control, which is exactly what happened with the AI-171. So, GE, the engine makers, had recommended repair, which involved removing old chip, cleaning the solder pads, and installing a new processor with a strict limit of 3 replacements per board. But did all of that happen? Let's look at that report and what that report asked for, and why is this very critical. We've been getting you details of the report prepared by the AAIB, but here's a confidential GE notice that we have also accessed this evening. It warned 787 Dreamliner specifically. It spoke about replacement of MN4 on main channel boards to address loss of thrust control. Now, this is another notice that we have accessed, exclusive on Republic, which raises questions on whether or not it was followed, taken seriously by airlines. Secondly, it said it is needed to prevent solder joint failure on the MN4 processor. It said it was required specifically to avoid an instance that we've seen in the case of the AI-171, where the switch goes from a run position to a cutoff position. Nobody knows how that happened. But this GE notice in 2020 asked for some changes to be made, some repairs. It said you need to reduce potential in-flight failure events, which is exactly why this notice was perhaps issued in 2020. They detected that the problem could happen in the future. They predicted a problem, and that's why they asked for some changes to be made. It asked for improved long-term reliability of fuel control switchboard, which is why the changes were sought by GE in that notice that came out in 2020. Now, why are we getting you these points? Because in this report, there is no reason why the fuel control, the switch, went from from run to cut off. So we don't know what really happened, but some answers are in this report itself, which also speaks about an advisory that was issued in 2018 by the FAA, to which the Air India said that it was just an advisory, it was not mandatory, and that's why perhaps it was not followed through. And when you look back at communication that was given by the engine makers, now in this particular case, what we know is that AI-171 had a double engine failure. Emergency mechanisms kicked in within seconds of takeoff. And all of a sudden, the fuel switch went from run to cut off, and it was without manual intervention. It was a switch Let me show you the switch, in fact, just to tell you what we are talking about this evening. In case you're watching the broadcast this evening here on Republic TV, this is why the plane crashed. If I can ask the producers to pull out that picture of the switch which went from run to cut off. That is the entire story today. We have Amit Singh, who's a former captain with an airline, joining us, an aviation expert joining us on this broadcast. It all comes down to this switch, and this is the switch that we've been talking about. The switch here says fuel control. On top, it's like a normal switch. Run on top, cut off at the bottom. It had to be in run throughout, but it was cut off seconds after takeoff. Why did that happen? Why did that happen? Amit Singh, we have the report with us, but what we're looking at are for answers. And the answers we don't have yet. Why it happened, we don't know. What happened, we know. But looking at the notice that was issued in 2020, revised in 2021, and then this FAA SAIB bulletin that was given in 2018 asked for and spoke of potential disengagement of the fuel control switch locking feature. Now, all those families of 260 people are looking for answers, sir. What do you think are the takeaways from this report? I'm going to Amit Singh. Amit Singh, if you're joining us on the broadcast, you've been going through the details since this morning. What do these warnings tell you?
Yes, so this control switch basically controls the flow of fuel from the tanks to the engines. This is a guarded switch in the sense that there are detents to move from one position to another, that is from cutoff to run or backwards. You have to lift this spring-loaded switch, then move it to the position and leave it, and it goes down with the spring and stays there. So as to prevent an inadvertent movement by any means. So it has to be a deliberate, conscious move to lift and move it. The SIB says that there could be a situation wherein this lock, the lock is that pulling mechanism and then movement, that could get disengaged, which means with the knock of your hand, the switch can move from cutoff to run or from run to cutoff. So that safety feature is kind of disengaged as per the SIB. So that needs to be inspected by the engineering, which was not apparently done by Air India. That is a big takeaway from this report. While everybody is focusing on who did what, but this particular SIB, which features in the beginning of the report, is not being focused upon by many. So that is a possibility. It cannot be ruled out unless you're very sure through your data, that is the black box data, the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, that it was a human intervention which caused it. So we can look at that part separately. Now, having said this, if we look towards the airborne phase of the aircraft got airborne at 08:39. After 3 seconds at 42, it says the aircraft attained a speed of 180 knots, about 330 kilometers an hour. And soon after, the switches moved from run to cutoff, and within a gap of 1 second. So if somebody has to move it by lifting it, this is a very fast movement which has to happen, and it cannot go unnoticed. So it cannot be a subtle movement by somebody moving the switch in 1 second. It has to be a very fast, and it has to be noticeable. Now, after this, the report says the engine parameter starts dropping. Which engine, we don't know. Now, here comes the dichotomy in the report. So we assume that after the fuel switches are moved to cutoff, the engine stops. But a para later, the report says that the ram air turbine, so this turbine basically deploys once both the engines are cut off or the electrical supply is shut down. So the ram air turbine was deployed during the initial climb immediately after takeoff. So takeoff was at 39. So immediately after takeoff, the ram air turbine was deployed, which means the engine failure happened before it.
Yeah.
At 3.9 or before. So when did the engine failure happen? Before 4.2 or after 4.2? So the same report kind of contradicts itself at 2 points. So we're not sure when did the engine failure happen or the loss of thrust.
Mr. Singh, can I ask you another question? I mean, I'm asking our producers also to put the picture of the ram air turbine that he's referring to, which is the RAT deployment, right? If you can put the picture, it's a picture from the report where you can see the plane taking off. It's a CCTV grab of the plane. The moment it lifted off, if I can show you the picture, yeah, that's the picture. That's the picture on the screen. Now, that's what Amit Singh is saying, that what are the possibilities or chances of a cascading failure? I mean, the report talks of a RAT. This is the ram air turbine. It kicks in. You see at the bottom of the screen, there's a circle that even investigators have pointed at. It kicked in immediately after takeoff, a second after takeoff. It's still over the tarmac. So it's just lifted off, 1, 2, and then the ram air turbine is already in an extended position, which means it has detected an emergency mechanism. And secondly, it also says that this fuel switch was cut off. And then it also says somewhere in the report that the air thrust, that the thrust was in idle, indicating, complete, engine failure, lack of, fuel to the engines. Now, my question is, what are the chances, if you can quickly summarize, sir, what are the chances of such a cascading failure or a list of failures, a string of failures in just a few seconds? Is it possible? Has it ever been seen?
It's highly remote. It's never been seen at such a critical juncture in flight, movement of the fuel control switches. For takeoff, the thrust levers are moved to detent the thrust. The auto throttle controls the thrust lever movement. After a particular speed, which is the decision speed, the captain moves his or her hand from the thrust lever to the control column and doesn't touch it. So there is no hand movement towards the central pedestal until the aircraft is safely airborne. So why would anybody put their hand and move? That would be a deliberate attempt. And then again, it has to be, it cannot go unnoticed.
Yeah.
So that is the point. And the engines failed before the fuel control switches were moved to the cutoff position. That the report itself says at 2 stages.
Yeah.
If you look at this picture, there is no timestamp.
Correct.
There should be a timestamp.
But it says, it mentions, sir, I mean, in fact, it mentions at one point, it clearly mentions on the picture of the ram air turbine or RAT being activated, it clearly mentions, let me go to that picture, it says that it was deployed during the initial climb immediately after liftoff. And there is a screenshot, CCTV screenshot of RAT deployment. There is a screenshot as well. I have the picture. That is a picture not shared by us, but there is a picture that you see on your screen, that you see here. It's on your screen. It is a picture shared by the AAIB. Now, I want to go to Harsha just for a second. Harsha and Achal also joining us. Harsha, there are most experts, like even Amit Singh, saying there are so many contradictions. There are more questions than answers in this report. Of course, this report was not to give all answers, but to just give a preliminary indication of what happened. Okay, we know what happened. Or actually, do we know what happened? Because there are so many contradictions in this report. And they're also giving, sort of a, I don't know whether to call it a clean sheet, but they are saying that there is no recommendation at this stage to, 787 Dreamliner. But they also make a mention of FAA asking, for airlines to make some changes to ensure exactly the cutoff doesn't happen, right? So what are people you're speaking to saying about the larger forces at play here? Right? We know Boeing's reputation is at stake. GE engine makers, they gave notices. I don't know how many airlines took that seriously, acted on it. And finally, Air India. Nobody has been blamed. Nobody's been given a clean sheet. What's the inside story?
So, Niranjan, how so far we have spoken to the experts, we have spoken to our sources in the DGCA, AIB, and the sources who are part of the investigation. They still say that this is not the final report. So, it is, yes, recommended here that there no action is recommended on Boeing, GE, and the operator. But yes, the larger picture is still awaited. So, we can say it because Boeing is answerable. GE is answerable. It is a system fitted by them. And after we see the SAIB report of 2018 also, the processor in the fuel switch had to be replaced with a new one. And the new one, whether it was installed or not, we don't know about it. But Niranjan, here in your bulletin, I would like to tell all our viewers that days before this AIB report has released today early in the morning at 2 o'clock, and from 7 July onwards, Air India has started changing the fuel switch control relay in its all Boeing fleet. What does it indicate?
One second.
Fuel Republic
Wait a second. When did you get this information?
So, Niranjan, we have got this information just 5 minutes back.
One second.
We have got
That's
to know-
breaking news. 1 minute. You're telling me that Air India is changing the fuel switch control units in all Boeing planes now? Since July 7th.
From 7 July. They've started from 7 July.
That's
the
breaking
notification. The notification which Air India floated for all its Boeing fleet from 7 July onwards. They have floated the notification to the engineering department, and now most of the pilots who are flying Boeing fleet, they have been told that there's going to be change of the control relay and some wiring location. It said wiring location in the fuselage place. The fuselage, which we call, which is very important for the fuel control switch. So in that particular area, they are doing the relay control change and the wiring location change. That means they knew before the report came out that there is some issue with the fuel switch.
This is huge.
There is some issue with the fuels.
This is huge, Harsha. In fact, this is exactly what Amit Singh was saying, that there is this very critical paragraph on the FAA advisory, the SIB advisory, and it spoke about potential disengagement of the fuel control switch. Interestingly, this paragraph that I have here said, as per information from Air India, suggested inspections were not carried out as SIB was advisory and not mandatory. They knew it. They didn't act. There's a crash. 260 people have died, Amit Singh, and now they're replacing it. Stay with me because my colleague Achal is also here, and she's been following how this report was compiled. You've been following details of what went into this investigation. Achal, if you can quickly summarize in about 30 seconds for us, what went into compiling this report? Who worked on this report?
So the report is out now, but we have confirmed information from our sources within the parliamentary committee that the committee was given a detailed presentation by the investigating team on every aspect of the investigation, right from the position of the switches in the cockpit to second-by-second analysis of the black box data. In fact, there were 4 teams formed. 1, the technical team, 2nd, the operations team, 3rd, the flight recorder data team, and the 4th one was a human factor team. Different people from different domains were involved in the investigation, including people from the DRDO, people from HAL, and they all use their expertise to reach to various conclusions that we see in the report that we have right now. They use simulator to create and analyze the crash scene. All the burnt components were also used and they were studied, and the components are right now being sent to different locations for further forensic analysis. The systems that they used included a failed reconstruction of the aircraft was attempted even with burnt components, and key parts were sent to global original equipment manufacturers and the specialist labs for further forensic examination.
Yeah, stay with me. Amit Singh, last word if I can get you on that, because I'm waiting to, after this news bulletin ends, I'm going to speak to Harsha and put out the full details at 8 p.m. But initially, the initial details she's picked up, Air India has started acting after July 7th. There is some change happening on the fuel switch boards. Now, that if it is true, and if they're doing it across the board, I think that's the story.
Yeah, that is kind of an admission that they had overlooked this SIB, saying it was only advisory. So in safety, especially airline safety, we have a directive which is mandatory, which means that it has to be implemented immediately or within the timeline given, failing which it can have safety repercussions. Second is advisory, which means there is no immediate safety effect, but it has to be nevertheless implemented. An advisory means you have to make your best effort to do it, not today, but in a reasonable period of time. But apparently what Air India believes is that advisory means it need not be done. So that is the kind of understanding which they had. for which they overlooked this important SIB. And it could be a contributory cause for this accident.
Yeah, I think the story is just about started, but I don't know how long it's going to take for the final report to come out, because we just hope that the big players in this case don't use the time between this initial preliminary report and the final report to try and cover up their role in this crash. That's it. That's all the time we had. Amit Singh, Harsha and Arshal, thank you for joining us on this edition of This is Exclusive. We'll get you the details of what Air India is doing starting the July 7th. That's a breaking news update. Just gathering initial details. We'll come back with the full story at 8 p.m. Thanks for watching.